their faces, they were embracing each other, and at one point they were hugging prosecutors and saying thank you, all while Zieler was in the distance getting his fingerprints done before going back to jail. Now, as that verdict was read, Zieler's face remained blank, but by the end of reading, Zieler had a smirk on his face at one point. He smiled at one of his attorneys, too. Zieler had a different change of pace in court today, though. He testified in his defense, and at one point he made a derogatory gesture at what appeared to be our news cameras. Then he had an outburst, forcing the jury out of the courtroom.
Piece of paper right here that they're trying to hide from you.
Mr.
Right
Zieler.
here. I still see the body of 11-year-old Robin Cornell with the hand, with the hair of her
Ladies and
killer.
gentlemen, the jury will step out.
The blonde
Mr.
hair of her
Zieler,
killer.
please.
Yes.
Is that in any way unclear?
Can I use the microphone?
Is that in any way unclear, Mr. Zieler?
All of this culminated with closing arguments. Prosecutors really honed in on the DNA, saying DNA found at the zine was a match to Zieler in 2016 when he was arrested. The defense argues Zieler had no motive to kill Robin Cornell and Lisa Story, so he couldn't have done it. But as you heard, the jury thought otherwise, convicting Zieler of killing both Cornell and Story 33 years ago. Now, we tried to talk to the family as they left the courtroom. They didn't want to go on camera. Obviously, still a really emotional time. And Jan Cornell, the mother of Robin, at one point she did say this is not over yet. And she's right. We still have a penalty phase to go through. And this is when prosecutors will try to argue an aggravating factor to convince the jury that they should put death penalty on the table as an option when he is sentenced. Now, if that isn't on the table, there is another option, and Zieler could face 25 years in prison at least, with the possibility of parole after those 25 years. That will all begin next Tuesday morning. We'll bring you the latest as soon as that comes, again, next Tuesday. Reporting live inside the Lee County Courthouse, Caitlin Knapp, Fox 4.
Thank you, Caitlin. And of course, we will continue to cover the penalty phase of this trial. But if you have missed our coverage up to this point, you can catch up on what happened in court this week and see our stories of this case from decades of coverage on fox4now.com.
New details in the Golden Gates Estates homicide investigation we first reported last night on Fox 4 News at 10. The Collier County Sheriff's Office now saying deputies caught the 34-year-old suspect after he tried to hire a housekeeper to clean up the crime scene. Investigators say Anthony Corrado, released from prison last year, killed an older woman yesterday afternoon at a home on 16th Street Northeast. They say the woman had an order of protection against him. They also say Corrado severely beat an older man at the home. Responders flew the man to a hospital after deputies say a housekeeper that Corrado hired to clean up the scene discovered the bodies and reported it to the Collier County Sheriff's Office. Deputies say they found a hammer with blood on it in the kitchen and that Corrado was standing outside with blood on his clothing. Corrado is now charged with second-degree murder and aggravated battery. In Lehigh Acres, Florida Highway Patrol troopers say an SUV backed into an 8-year-old boy who was waiting at a school bus stop. The FHP says the driver was backing up on Barth Street and Adeline Avenue with 2 young children in the car when this happened. No one in the car was hurt, but a family member took the injured boy to the hospital with minor injuries.
Well, Fox 4 is following through for you on a story regarding Sanibel crime we first reported right here last night. The Sanibel Police Department is reporting that burglaries alone went up more than 600% last year compared to 2021, and most of those happening right after Hurricane Ian. So tonight, the police chief tells us that they believe the majority of these crimes were committed by people hired to repair damage caused by the storm. And they say one way some were able to get into the island was by stealing or fabricating hurricane passes needed for re-entry. People on Sanibel Island do say that even the smallest item stolen leaves more than just an empty spot in their home.
I only saved 3 pictures out of my house, and one of them my daughter and I had gotten together, and so, you know, in that, you know, it was taken. Yeah. So, you know, it just, and I mean, it was such a horrible time.
Pictures, that's horrifying to hear. Well, Sanibel police do say that the burglaries are now trending down, something homeowners say they are hopeful that will restore the sense of safety on their island.
A state investigation the FWC officially opened after a contract worker at Marco Island may have run over a possible sea turtle nest this week. These pictures from the Audubon Western Everglades organization shows tire marks over the nesting area. And we're told this happened during late night work to rebuild the sand berms at Marco Island. Now, the project manager says he and his team are following FWC guidelines to ensure this will not happen again. This also includes stopping all nighttime work. And if they must work on an evening project, it has to get approval from both the city and FWC.
The fact that we had an incident that late is very unfortunate, but it is not the standard practice. It's just a mere accident.
The project manager says this project's expected to be all wrapped up by the end of May. He says when it's all done, this should help protect both the sea turtle nesting habitat and the city from future storms.
Well, Lehigh Acres fire crews actually contained a 2-acre brush fire near Jaguar Boulevard and Naples Avenue this afternoon. As you see here, they were able to stop it from jumping a nearby canal and spreading further. Luckily, no structures were in danger, but it's still not clear how this started. This while in Collier County, fire crews are battling a 50-acre wildfire west of DeSoto Boulevard and 34th Avenue Southeast. Now, this is east of Golden Gate and east of the old Harley-Davidson test track. So as of 8:30 tonight, the Florida Forest Service said crews had this fire 95% contained.
And that is the big theme when we try to figure out what is our drought index, because we've seen it where it's been fairly extreme. We had that stretch for weeks as we bring in Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls, where it didn't seem like it was raining anywhere.
And
right.
We are now in rainy season, but we were talking about it's going to take a lot of rain to clear up this drought.
Right, and also we have to point out that places have seen very little so far this month, so we are still greatly in deficit here across Southwest Florida, and we are starting to see actually more of that red creep southward once again. The extreme drought conditions now working their way from the Bay Area into parts of Sarasota County as well as northern DeSoto County. That's also where we see that orange color right here, severe drought for Port Charlotte up into parts of DeSoto. Meanwhile, we're seeing a lot more peach, which is certainly improvement. Moderate drought, though, still in effect, and then closer toward the lake, that is where we have had most of that wet weather, and therefore we are dropping back those drought indices. That said, this still indicates that the ground is exceptionally dry, and we are in deficit. We do still need some of that rainfall. So as we look at some of those deficits, notice Naples still down by nearly 7 inches, Punta Gorda down by nearly 3.5 inches going back to January 1st. So coming up, we'll talk more about when more of us will be seeing some much needed rainfall.
Thanks a lot, Katie. With the rainy season starting up this week and hurricane season just a couple of weeks away, more concern about Southwest Florida waterways, specifically Lake Okeechobee's level still being too full. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has been finishing up its normal water releases during the dry season to try to keep the levels down. But if Lake O is still too full by hurricane season, the Corps plans to keep up with the releases. And groups like the Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation say that would provide the ingredients for algae blooms.
Those releases will give nutrients to algae blooms that are in the river, in the fresh portion of the river, or even feeding red tide blooms that are out into the saltwater part of the estuary.
And right now, the lake is expected to reach just more than 13 feet deep by June the 1st. SCCF says the ideal lake depth is 12.5 feet to start the wet season, but others say as long as it's below 14 feet, should be in good shape. The Charlotte County Sheriff's Office held a fallen officer memorial ceremony tonight to honor the sworn officers who lost their lives on the job. That includes the young deputy in Charlotte County, Christopher Taylor, whom investigators say a drunk driver hit and killed in November last year while he was in the midst of a traffic stop on I-75. This is also just days after the Sheriff's Office escorted Deputy Taylor's family to the National Law Enforcement Memorial and Candlelight Vigil in Washington, D.C. Both ceremonies are part of National Police Week, a time when law enforcement agencies meet to remember the lives lost in the line of duty. One very well-known attraction here in Southwest Florida, hoping for some big business over the summer. Fox 4 taking you to the Shell Factory to see the improvements after Hurricane Ian damaged so much.
And tonight, a new updated timeline on when the Cape Coral Yacht Club could reopen. The obstacles now pushing this project back even more.
And check out this beautiful time lapse taken from our Fox 4 drone right here. You can see that beautiful sunset, a little bit of cloud cover out there, making it even prettier. But more of us will be dealing with storms here in the next couple of evenings. We'll dive deeper into that timeline and the impacts that could have next.
It is back, and the people who make it out to the shell factory are grateful, but maybe not as grateful as the people who operate the shell factory, taking on plenty of damage from Hurricane Ian. This cornerstone attraction in North Fort Myers was back open way back in December. A little thinned out, a little roughed up, but ready for a robust summer season. For the thousands of drivers who go past the shell factory and nature park, a question still comes up.
Even the sign needs a lot of repair, but every sign almost in Lee County does.
As bad as it looks, the arch itself is structurally sound.
The gift store is open with its expansive rows of just about anything to buy. All of the work to reach this point, which they did by December, 3 months after Hurricane Ian.
We are open. Every facility is open now. We did lose one building, and so we're going to change that out. And all our critters are talking right now because when some of them hear my voice, they just get a little crazy.
Only losing one building and no animals, but the property lost a lot of trees. There's not as much shade as before, but there's also a new vantage point on how to really use the space inside the nature park.
Couldn't really see from one side of it to the other, and now we can see things and possibilities that we didn't even know existed.
Pam Cronin has owned the park for 27 years. Like the visitors, she has her favorite spots in the nature park.
The lemurs. The lemurs are so much fun. We've had those for so many years.
Karen Schneider is a longtime nature park director.
We still have a little ways to go with the habitats. Thankfully they all held up, but they did, sustain some damage.
For weeks that bled into months, she was out here caring for the animals. All animals did survive the hurricane, but those costs.
People don't realize the 3 months that we were closed, the one thing that never changed for the nature park was the expense of feeding the animals.
Along with a cautious optimism to get people back, Pam Cronin talked about how critical this summer will be for visitors coming to the shell factory.
Community support has been amazing, and we're so excited about that.
Well, Fox 4 is following through for you on where the rebuilding process stands at the Cape Coral Yacht Club. Cape Coral officials are saying that a lot of logistical problems are preventing it from reopening. So initially, the Boathouse restaurant was expected to open by the end of this month, but the director of capital improvements for the city says that this now may not happen until June. Now, the boat ramp will also remain shut down until at least September. They say the company responsible for removing abandoned boats from Lee County has removed 89 from Cape Coral so far. They anticipate needing at least until August 31st to remove the rest. The beach there is still closed as well.
As far as sand refurbishment, we're waiting for FEMA approval. They still have to send out a beach inspector. There's actually a specialist that comes out related to beaches and to see if we're eligible for reimbursement. The marine is still closed and the other amenities.
Yeah, a lot of people excited about this reopening, but it's going to take some time. As for the buildings here at the Yacht Club, they will all be demolished and they won't be able to start demolition on this process. We're learning now September or October. They are waiting for FEMA reimbursement on that one.
Collier County is also spraying for mosquitoes tonight after the county says it's seeing a rise in larvae in the area. The mosquito control districts will first spray at Naples Park and then around Marco Shores, an area also seeing a rise in salt marsh mosquitoes. The district is deploying what is called Vectovac. They say that this will reduce the larvae numbers in standing water and in storm debris.
And whenever we think about raining season, we do think about that water that can easily pile up in your homes, and with that comes the mosquitoes, especially when it's hot and sticky.
Exactly. So if you have any ponding whatsoever, I mean, even something we were talking about earlier, as small as a bottle cap, you want to make sure you dump it out because the last thing you want are mosquitoes breeding in your yard. And let me tell you this, we're going to start with my lower threshold here, but if you have mosquitoes in your yard, they're likely breeding in your yard. They really don't like to fly very far. And obviously they thrive when temperatures are above 50 degrees, which is the case for us almost year round here in Southwest Florida. And not so fun fact, we have 80 different mosquito species here in Florida. Some are just a nuisance while others can transmit disease. So as we step more and more into this rainy season pattern, those are just a couple of tips to help get you going. Right now, radar is nice and quiet and a live look outside showing just the same. Here we are now looking live across the Caloosahatchee River from the Luminary Hotel. Downtown Fort Myers showing off nice quiet conditions. Those clouds will be clearing out overnight tonight. In Fort Myers, we hit a high of 91 degrees along with Lehigh Acres and Cape Coral. Punta Gorda, Arcadia hit highs around 90. Meanwhile, Naples registered that high of 88. Little hotter farther inland, both Immokalee and LaBelle recorded highs of 95 degrees. So overall temperatures today definitely on the toasty side, and that will continue to be the trend as we head into the weekend. Generally lower 90s are forecast. Then heading into next week, once we really start to see that more of a classic rainy season pattern kick in, we will be hugging that average of 90 degrees. So taking a look at when we can expect those rain chances for tomorrow. Well, your Friday morning is going to start off nice and quietly. Lots of sunshine on the way. Right here around lunchtime, could see a couple of showers develop right along the coastline. But once those westerly winds kick in, that's crucial because that will help to force any energy farther inland. So that's why by 6 o'clock, the best chance for those storms will stay to the east of I-75. So inland Charlotte County, as well as inland Lee, back toward Hendry, Glades, down toward northern Collier, including Immokalee, Ave Maria. That's where we have the best chance for those storms tomorrow evening, heading even in toward the 9 o'clock hour and then fizzling out thereafter. Looking ahead to your Saturday. Saturday looks now to be a bit more active. So Saturday morning, starting off quietly. This is the time frame you want to make sure you get outside and enjoy. Take advantage of it. Right around lunchtime, isolated showers and storms begin to pop, and then they will become more numerous heading into the afternoon. So right here, here's what I want to show you at 5 o'clock on Saturday. That's when more of us could be affected by those developing showers and storms. So heads up there as we begin to see this wet weather becoming more consistent. Overnight tonight, clearing skies will drop down towards 73 degrees. High temperatures for tomorrow into the lower 90s, but factor in that humidity, it's going to be feeling more like 95 to 97 degrees. And then again, we'll see some isolated, mainly inland showers and storms. But we have updated those rain probabilities both Saturday, Sunday to the scattered range for the afternoon as well as the evening, and that likelihood staying elevated into next week.
All right, Katie, well, still ahead. Collier County now has a place for all kids to play. We're going to have a new look at the new all-inclusive playground at Fleischman Park. here's a heads up for parents in Collier County. A new all-inclusive, accessible playground opened today in Fleischman Park, and it provides space for all different kinds of kids, those with disabilities, any age or size, all the opportunity to have fun. Now, leaders say the park is a one-of-a-kind inclusive playground in Collier County, and it provides a number of features to help kids of different skill levels to have fun. We're talking things like ramps, accessible swings, and what's called play panels. They are available year-round, and the county says it's planning activities to meet the needs of these kids who rely on these inclusive tools.
It's all kinds of fun here. We have different plug-and-play options for kids that are hearing impaired. So it's something that's new and great for Collier County and first one.
Now, Collier Park says the plans for the new park were made back in 2016, but things like the pandemic and hurricanes, both Irma and Ian, held it up. Well, a local hospital system is also gaining worldwide recognition for its year-long heart health campaign. We're talking about NCH Healthcare. It received the Reagan's Crisis Communications Award for its Heart of What Matters Most campaign. This resulted in more people seeking cardio care in Naples. NCH leaders say the campaign contributed to more than 56,000 annual visits and more than 5,500 open heart surgeries performed.
So this award is important now because we're in the process of becoming an advanced healthcare system. What does that mean? It means we're expanding our teaching, our simulation center, our clinical trials, recruiting in world-class doctors using endowed chairs. All of that is elevating the quality of care in this region.
NCH is also working to build a new heart, vascular, and stroke center at NCH Baker Hospital in the downtown location to meet the growing need for care there as well. Well, speculation grows over when Governor Ron DeSantis will announce he's running for president in 2024.
Fox 4 is seeing who might be tipping their tails with an announcement that could come as soon as next week. What we're hearing from inside the governor's camp.
And Disney pulls out of a $1 billion project to relocate employees from California to Florida. It would have been a big investment. Why Disney says it was in the best interest for business.
A day after 99 of 113 Florida Republicans gave their support to Governor Ron DeSantis for president.
He's a winner, and he gets things done.
Momentum is building ahead of a potential presidential announcement.
How soon the governor is expected to file for a 2024 run, and the clues Fox 4 is uncovering as Fox 4 News at 10 continues.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 10.
Well, the pace of the governor's expected run for the White House is picking up tonight. This week, we saw his press secretary resign to join his political operation, and then we saw his camp move to new headquarters in Tallahassee.
Major networks like CNN are also reporting Governor Ron DeSantis could be filing the paperwork to run for president as soon as next week. Our Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders takes us through how officials connected to his political operation, telling Fox 4 top supporters will also be meeting in Miami to talk over the next steps.
After months of dismissing questions about a White House run,
I may have something to say about the overall landscape for 24, but stay tuned on that.
That time looks to be coming soon. A growing chorus of national outlets predicting DeSantis will submit a presidential filing with the Federal Election Commission early next week. The DeSantis political operation isn't commenting on the record, but we do know that the governor's top supporters are getting ready for a, quote, pre-briefing next week in Miami. That's to lay the groundwork for the DeSantis operation's next steps, according to those familiar with the governor's thinking. But if those supporters want to start fundraising, that FEC paperwork needs to come first, meaning documents might be in before Wednesday or Thursday. DeSantis is already on the clock to file after moving his political operations to a new location in Tallahassee. Spending more than $5,000 to do so means he'll need to report intentions before the end of the month. Meanwhile,
and welcome Governor Ron DeSantis to this great state of Iowa.
He keeps making stops in vital primary states, Iowa last weekend and New Hampshire this weekend, to meet with state lawmakers. A strong showing in each is essential to winning the GOP nomination.
We knocked 1,000 doors last Saturday here in Iowa.
DeSantis' super PAC Never Back Down already investing heavily in places like Iowa, where a caucus win could weaken the current frontrunner, former President Donald Trump.
DeSantis beats Biden, and Biden beats Trump. Republicans are starting to know that if they want to win in November 2024, it means supporting Ron DeSantis.
Trump, meanwhile, keeps dissing DeSantis online and in emails, regularly noting the governor's deficit in early polling. Real Clear Politics estimates Trump's lead is more than 30 points on average.
They're public polls, so public polls a lot of times are not worth the paper that they're written on.
Senator Blaise Ingoglia is among the growing list of state lawmakers backing DeSantis. He dismisses Trump's lead, saying it's too soon to tout, as the governor hasn't even officially entered the race.
What is it about Governor Ron DeSantis that speaks to you?
He's a winner, and he gets things done.
But will Governor DeSantis get that paperwork done next week? Florida and the nation now wait to find out. At the Capitol, I'm Forrest Saunders, Fox 4.
And as DeSantis looks to step to the center of the national stage, Time magazine released its June 12th cover. And take a look. It features Florida's governor. It is titled, What Ron DeSantis Means for America, and pictures him peeling an orange, which is our state's official fruit. The magazine also published a story to its website titled The DeSantis Project, which outlines the political climate in Florida in what the governor calls the Florida Blueprint.
Disney has backed out of a planned $1 billion Florida campus that would have brought an estimated 2,000 jobs to the state. The development was planned for the Lake Nona region. The entertainment company citing new leadership and changing business conditions for the move. But it also comes amid the ongoing feud between Disney and Governor DeSantis. It started over comments that the company made opposing the parental rights and education law that the legislature passed last year. Now DeSantis and Disney are locked in a legal battle over who can control Disney's special district in the Orlando area. The governor's press secretary issued a statement over the dead deal saying, quote, given the company's financial straits, falling market cap and declining stock price, it is unsurprising that they would restructure their business operations and cancel unsuccessful ventures. In response, several Orlando area Democrats expressing disappointment with this. State Senator Linda Stewart said the jobs would have been a great economic boost. Orange County Mayor Jerry Deming said this was an expected consequence of the Disney-DeSantis feud. State Representative Anna Escamani called DeSantis a, quote, job-killing moron. On the Republican side, even former President Donald Trump is slamming DeSantis, saying he is, quote, being absolutely destroyed by Disney.
Now, all of this happening while one Florida leader is inviting businesses in Chicago to move to the Sunshine State following the swearing in of the city's new mayor. Florida Chief Financial Officer Jimmy Patronis taking aim at the Windy City with this video message today.
You just elected another woke mayor who does not care about your safety, security, but gladly takes your taxes and spends them whatever way they please. I think that time is enough is enough. Come to the state of Florida where you're appreciated.
So Brandon Johnson was named the 57th mayor of the city, inaugurated today. He's known as a progressive Democrat, overcoming challenges like crime in Chicago, among other things. Well, Florida is #1 in higher education. At least that's according to U.S. News and World Report, which released its annual state rankings earlier this month.
But while state officials have spent the past few weeks touting the recognition online, as well as at press events, Fox 4 Investigates' Katie Lagrone wanted to know what this #1 ranking really means and if it's really a scorecard on the quality of education here.
When you're ranked #1 in education by U.S. News and World Report, which we were.
During a press conference to sign several controversial new education measures into law earlier this month.
We're already now #1 in education overall.
Florida's top politicians and education leaders all used the moment to praise the state's latest distinction.
Florida's #1 in education, according to U.S. News and World Report.
For the 7th year in a row, U.S. News and World Report dubbed the Sunshine State #1 for higher education.
Guys, how about that news? 7 years in a row.
The head of the state's university system recently interpreting the recognition to his board like this.
It is a testament to our trajectory and the work that we're doing and the impact that we're having. It's working.
But a closer look at the details behind these rankings had us wondering what it all really means. And if this #1 higher ed title is really an indication college students are getting the best of it here.
U.S. News ranked Florida #1 for higher education. Sounds amazing, is it?
No. You got a positive Yelp review. That's in essence what you just got.
Akil Bello is director at the National Center for Fair and Open Testing, a group that advocates against the misuse of standardized testing. He's also a vocal critic of U.S. News and World Report ranking systems, using Twitter to call the rankings, quote, terrible and wrong.
They're using metrics that no one would actually want to measure if you were looking at education.
According to its website, U.S. News' education rankings are measured using a limited number of metrics. Graduation rates, cost of tuition, debt at graduation, and the number of citizens in each state who hold a college degree.
Are you going to choose a college based on the number of people with associate's degrees or better that live in the community around it? What does that have to do with the college itself?
But what about grad rates? Isn't that a reflection of learning?
No, most of the people who end up not graduating are because they didn't have the funding to continue. So unless you disaggregate those who academically didn't graduate from those who financially couldn't graduate, you're not actually saying anything.
The U.S. News and World Report rankings are pretty narrowly focused.
But Andrew Spar, head of Florida's largest teachers union, isn't writing off the rankings, which deemed the state's pre-K through 12 education system number 14 nationally. While that measurement was also limited to metrics like grad rates, they did include some 8th grade test results and college readiness exams.
I wouldn't say I don't take it seriously. I take it for what it is.
In a press release, Florida's Department of Education described the rankings as measuring the overall quality of each state's education system. The Florida education model stands alone as a shining example for all other states to follow, Florida's education commissioner added. But if these rankings speak to the quality of education students get here,
basically somebody just called Florida pretty.
Critic Akil Bello advises you look somewhere else.
One of the problems with politicians endorsing these rankings is that they're misleading the public.
When you're ranked #1 in education,
they're suggesting that these rankings are providing real information about the quality of education when in truth they're not.
A spokesperson from U.S. News and World Report tells me they designed the framework for these rankings with a third party, and the metrics were selected in collaboration with experts. The company's education rankings have fueled controversy before. Its popular law school rankings underwent a series of revisions this year over concerns about its metrics. I'm Katie LaGrone reporting.
Also tonight, we bring you one Florida high school student's push to pass a bill that will make menstrual hygiene products more accessible to students statewide. Anya Patel first started a nonprofit called the Global Girls Initiative after learning about period poverty in India through volunteer work and then doing research about issues that are similar here in the United States. She began working with the Hillsborough County School District to get period products inside school bathrooms, even creating a dispenser to make them more accessible in Title I schools, which are typically in lower income areas. Well, that is now helping expand that accessibility statewide, advocating for Tallahassee to pass House Bill 389. This authorizes public schools across Florida to provide period products to students at no charge.
It's a basic right that they should have, and being able to provide this is going to improve so many girls' education, their health, and their confidence.
And it worked. The bill was passed a few days ago by lawmakers. It's now awaiting Governor Ron DeSantis' signature. She plans to then take this push nationwide.
Along the U.S.-Mexico border in Harlingen, Texas, U.S. Customs and Border Protection confirming an 8-year-old girl died in custody. Detention facilities all along the southern border have been working through heavy crowds after a surge of migrants have approached the border in recent weeks as Title 42 expired last week, back on Friday. Customs officers said a 17-year-old unaccompanied migrant staying at a facility in Florida died hours after Title 42 lifted. Tonight, Fox 4 has learned it was a letter from Texas Governor Greg Abbott that led Governor Ron DeSantis to send those resources to the border from Florida. DeSantis said back on Tuesday he would be sending more than 1,000 members of various Florida entities, from the Highway Patrol to FWC to the Florida National Guard and others, to help for at least 31 days in Texas to watch for any criminal activity along the border. DeSantis has been trying to tie the crisis at the border to President Biden. Yesterday, the Assistant Secretary for Border and Immigration Policy said the two governors are doing this for, quote, purely political reasons.
A German bank now has to pay $75 million to settle a lawsuit filed by victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Deutsche Bank agreed to pay the $75 million to settle this lawsuit that was filed by women who say they were abused by the late financier. The move resolves the claims in a proposed class action lawsuit in a Manhattan federal court by his accusers. Epstein was a Deutsche Bank client from 2013 to 2018. He died in jail in August of 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges.
It's really not that different than trying to get all your term papers in college. In spring in D.C., it means the U.S. Supreme Court's trying to get a lot of those rulings all taken care of.
Yeah, how their latest ruling, though, could shape the internet.
And also, Southwest Florida has beautiful beaches, but none of them were named best in the nation. What Florida beach, though, can now claim that space? That's coming up.
And helping you plan out your afternoon, best chance for those showers and storms staying inland for now, but over the weekend, that will be changing. We'll talk more about your hour-by-hour outlook next.
Well, it is that time of year again when the Supreme Court of the United States is getting ready to issue its rulings. We're talking everything from student loan forgiveness to your family finances is on the line.
But today, justices also ruled on a case seeking to bring more accountability to the internet. But as Joe St. George explains, that opinion the justices issued today means the internet will look very much the same for now.
Sometimes Supreme Court justices can change society with their opinions. On other occasions, justices keep the status quo. Regarding the internet on Thursday, the Supreme Court very much sided with the status quo. The Supreme Court issuing two opinions in Google v. Gonzalez and Twitter v. Tamina. In both cases, the Supreme Court could have ruled that YouTube and Twitter were liable for content that inspired in part terrorist attacks in Turkey and in Paris in recent years. That's what some of the families of the victims wanted. If the court sided with the families, that would have likely forced social media sites to moderate what gets posted online going forward. After all, they would have wanted to avoid being sued. However, that is not what the Supreme Court did on Thursday. They very much sided with Silicon Valley on this, as well as with those who believe that any regulation of the internet, any censorship online would have been a violation of free speech. For those of you who may want the internet to be regulated a bit more, especially for younger people, teenagers, and children who use social media, that doesn't mean this is the end of the road. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill, staffers in the White House, they continue to talk about possible changes that would result in a bit more censorship of the content, especially for younger Americans. As a reminder, we are now officially in opinion season in Washington when the Supreme Court issues their most consequential opinions. We're still waiting for big opinions on student loan forgiveness, religious liberty, as well as affirmative action. Joe St. George, Scripps News, Washington.
And back here in Florida, a new list is out of the best beaches in the nation. And at the top is a Florida beach. The state park on St. George Island, right off of the Florida Panhandle, is now officially named the nation's best beach. Now, this, according to new rankings from a Florida International University professor known as Dr. Beach. So maybe there's some bias here. That's okay. We'll take it. He credits the island's natural beauty, abundant activities, and lack of development. Now, today's list marks the 33rd year that Dr. Beach has rated America's best beaches around this time of year, around Memorial Day. Beaches in Hawaii, New York, and South Carolina also made the top 10.
Okay, so it's opinion season, right? We just heard that 30
seconds ago. I know you have an opinion about
it.
this.
I got something to say about this. I've never walked on a beach here in Southwest Florida and said, oh, this is the 38th ranked beach in Florida. I am so unsatisfied.
No.
A beach is a beach is a beach.
And if it's in Florida, a Gulf beach is the best. I'm not slighting the East Coast beaches, but our Gulf beaches are amazing.
As long as the sand is firm and I can wash my feet, that's all I need, right?
That's it. Well, if you are going to, though, you might need to dodge some storms because we're now officially in rainy season. But as we bring in certified meteorologist Katie Walls, we're seeing those storms more inland these days, though.
That's right, and that's going to be the case tomorrow. Over the weekend, though, if you want to head to the beach, you want to do it in the morning because more of us over the weekend will be seeing those scattered showers and storms. But here we go with our local beach forecast for tomorrow. Water temperature at 81 degrees. Boca Grande, Captiva expecting those highs in the mid-80s. Partly cloudy skies up to 92 degrees for Fort Myers Beach tomorrow afternoon. Naples looking for that high around 90. Marco Island forecasting a high of 88 degrees. And again, most of our coastal communities staying dry at least for tomorrow. Speaking of dry, let's take a live look outside right now. Nice quiet conditions from atop the Fox 4 studios here in Cape Coral looking down Pine Island Road. Overall conditions are on the quiet side tonight. Those clouds continuing to clear out. As for those temperatures, they are still on the warm and sticky side. So we are still seeing those upper 70s and lower 80s currently across all of Southwest Florida. Right now, 77 for Arcadia, 79 for Punta Gorda. Fort Myers still reporting 82 degrees alongside Naples. So with this higher dew point, this extra moisture, that will certainly keep those temperatures up once again overnight, running above normal for tomorrow morning. So your weather headlines break down like this. Tomorrow, it's going to be another scorcher, especially when you factor in that humidity. It's going to be feeling more like 95 to 97 degrees. So please mind that heat and do stay hydrated. Best chance for showers and storms tomorrow will be isolated and they will mainly be inland. So for the most part, the coastline staying pretty quiet for your Friday afternoon and evening. But looking ahead at the latest data, it does look like those scattered showers and storms will be returning to the mix Saturday and Sunday afternoons. So helping you plan out your Friday and weekend hour by hour. Tomorrow morning, lots of sunshine on the way. Could squeeze out a spotty sprinkle right here at lunchtime close to the coastline. Otherwise, once those winds pick up out of the west, that will force that activity farther inland. So expecting most of the activity right here, 6 o'clock, for example, to really be to the east of I-75. So Hendry as well as Glades, inland Charlotte, inland Lee. That's where we have the best chance of seeing those storms stretching up to Arcadia, even at 8 o'clock. But shortly after sunset, those showers and storms die out. Heading into your Saturday morning. If you want to go to the beach, go in the morning. Here's why. As we look ahead to the afternoon, more of those showers and storms will be bubbling up. Look at this, 5 o'clock. And a lot of us could be affected in some of our most populated areas. So just want to give you that heads up as that pattern begins to shift and becomes more active each and every afternoon starting this weekend. For tonight, clear skies dropping down to 93 degrees. Afternoon highs tomorrow to the low 90s. But again, feeling hotter because of that humidity. Then over the weekend, scattered afternoon and evening storms in the mix, and that pattern continuing into next week.
Still ahead on Fox 4 News at 11, a guilty verdict days after a mother had to testify in the killing of her 11-year-old daughter and her babysitter in Cape Coral more than 30 years ago as a jury finds the man on trial guilty.
Plus, a deeper look at the data on Sanibel after a spike in burglaries in the weeks and months after Hurricane Ian.
Plus, the Shell factory in North Fort Myers opened just more than 2 months after Ian hit. We'll take a look at what's different in some parts of the park. Tonight, a guilty verdict with justice for the families of the 11-year-old girl and her babysitter from Cape Coral raped and murdered in 1990. After 3 hours of deliberation, a jury finds Joseph Zieler guilty of first-degree murder. We'll break down the evidence that got them to this point as Fox 4 News at 11 starts now.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 11.
We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1 of the charge. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder of Robin Cornell.
That statement coming 33 years after the crime. The